Okay. Would you like to read the next 2 verses, Clifford?
Didn't she get a chance?
My eyes are watering terribly from this, so I can't see very well.
Yeah, I thought you might not want to read. That's why I didn't.
I don't want to read.
And you shall set your face toward the siege of Jerusalem with your arm uncovered, and you shall prophesy against it. And behold, I lay bands upon you, and you shall not turn you from one side to the other, till you have accomplished the days of your siege.
Okay. So he's going to make him lay bands on him. I
What
guess
is the problem there?
he's going to lay some kind of bonds on him or something. Okay.
There's the Ezekiel 4 cereal that you can buy on the store shelves.
Huh?
Right, well, yeah, he talks about that next. Okay, so Ezekiel's actually going to go through another little role play here.
Ezekiel 4:9 bread.
Okay, to bring the message home.
You come to our house and we'll give you some.
Okay. All right, Joseph, would you like to read the next verse?
Which one?
The recipe for Ezekiel 4:9 bread.
Which verse is that?
9.
Ezekiel 4:9.
Take you also unto you. Oh, I hate the grammar.
Take you also unto you wheat.
And barley and beans and lentils and millet and spelt, and put them in one vessel, and make bread out of it, according to the number of the days that you shall lie upon your side. Even 390 days you shall eat of it.
Okay. Ari,
I fixed the grammar.
can you read the next 2 verses, Ari?
And your food which you shall eat shall be weighed 20 shekels a day. From time to time shall you eat it.
Okay. Let's see, Valerie, can you read verses 11 and 12?
And you shall drink water by measure, the 6th part of a hin. From time to time shall you drink. And you shall eat it as barley cakes, and you shall bake it in their sight with dung that comes out of man.
What?
Couldn't you just say it the way other translations said it, which was to say human dung?
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay.
It's the ASV, I guess they put it that way.
Okay.
It needs to be fixed
All right.
now.
Miriam, would you like to read Ezekiel's response?
Like or want or have to. And Yahweh said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their bread unclean among the nations where I will drive them.
Continue.
Then said I, Adonai Yahweh, behold, my soul has not been polluted, for from my mouth up even till now have I not eaten of the... Okay, I'm doing monotone because that grammar is really bad.
From my youth up.
Eaten of that which dies of itself, or is torn of beasts, neither came from abominable flesh into my mouth.
All right. One more verse.
Then he said unto me, See, where are the quotation marks?
No, this is the American Standard Version. There are no
See, I
quotation
have
marks.
given you cow's dung for man's dung, and you shall prepare yourself bread thereon.
You got to get used to looking at the indicators in the text to indicate a quote is coming rather than the
I
quotation
will get
marks.
used to it by putting in the quotation
Then he
marks
said
wherever I
unto
find
me.
them.
Okay, then you know a quote is coming because of the introductory phrase.
Okay, you're going to put the quotation marks
Yeah,
in
anyway.
later, end of story, whatever.
So God acquiesced to his
Request.
problem.
Acquiesce
There's your
to
quotation marks.
Hey.
Use
Hey.
that, that's false.
Erase that. Ha. You have to scroll down, Dad, because you're...
How much food is 20 shekels?
By weight.
Boy.
That's what I was wondering.
I don't know why it keeps doing that.
Just do undo one.
I'm doing undo, but it keeps relocating the
It's
file.
not shekel,
It
kind of a
does.
sizable coin.
Because when you press
I know.
undo, Dad, you also change the cursor location. It's really dumb like that.
I don't want that stuff in my file anyway. I shouldn't have done that.
I'm pretty sure there's an option not to include them when you save.
All right,
Yeah,
so now
there is.
there is one other place in the Bible where God tells somebody to do something that isn't quite kosher, and the person says, no, I've never done this before, why are you making me do this? And the implication is that it meant something else or God relented.
You're talking about Peter?
Acts 10.
Acts 10, right. I'm talking about, okay.
You know, the cartoon picture for Acts 10 is kind of ridiculous.
Probably is, yeah.
Yeah. It's like this tiny
You'll see what happened to my interface.
sheet thing
It's
with
fine.
maybe a pig and a
You're
snake
touching with the
and
wrong
something
side of
else.
the pen,
And they're
Daddy.
like,
Okay, there we
He's
go.
trying to erase his controls.
Acts 10, okay. Now, there was a big sheet that came down from heaven that had all kinds of animals in it. Reptiles, and it said all kinds of animals in it. Okay, now, somebody pointed out to me that it didn't just have unclean animals in it. It had a big mixture of unclean and clean animals in it.
your handwriting's sloppy.
So next,
Does it list them in the Bible?
no, it doesn't. It just says all kinds of animals, every sort of animal.
Well, that kind of leaves that up to interpretation.
Right, it does. Okay, but if you know your rabbinic tradition and hang-ups and customs, then you can figure out
That's tradition.
that it
Daddy.
was a big mixture of animals. Okay. Now, Ezekiel, God basically tells Ezekiel to do something that isn't quite kosher, and so Ezekiel says, no, I haven't done this. And God says, okay, I'll relent. Now, God is making a point here. What point is he making to Ezekiel?
That desperation's going to make you do some things you don't want to do.
Maybe hoping that Ezekiel would pick up on the non-kosher part and object to it. It's like God
Well,
is
no,
testing him.
his point isn't so much focused on food, although it involves it. Read verse 13 there. The children of Israel will eat their bread unclean among the nations where I will drive them. Okay.
They're
So
not
what
gonna
he's
know the
saying then
difference.
is that part of the curse of the exile will be that they're going to have to eat unsavory things. Okay. And in Acts 10, the point is that Acts 10 isn't about food at all. It's about the nations. Okay? Okay, non-Jews versus Jews. Okay? Now, Jews regarded Jews as clean, and Gentiles they regarded as unclean. Okay, but now in rabbinic tradition, there was this thing: if you took clean food and you put it next to unclean food, or associate it with the unclean food, then the clean food became what was called common. Which, it's actually a third category, but the rabbis regarded things that were common as unclean. For instance, if a Gentile were to prepare clean food, then the clean food was common and therefore was unclean. Okay, this is rabbinic reasoning. Okay. So, derived from this business of being common was the doctrine of not wanting to associate with non-Jews, or not wanting to be around them, or not wanting to eat at the same table. Okay? Now, someone told me a story, a New York Jew told me a story of the Jews aren't as picky nowadays about eating with non-Jews. Okay, this is like ultra-Orthodox ancient thing. Cultural ethnocentrism. Okay, so this custom has kind of gone out of style. However, not completely, because a New York Jew told me that when his grandmother would go to visit a non-Jew would invite her out for lunch, say. She would bring her complete lunch with her, and while her friend would eat what she'd prepared, then she would eat what she had brought. Okay, and there were no problem because her friend expected this to happen. Okay, and the Jewish person knew that their friend knew that they expected this to happen. Okay.
So it's just mutual.
So it's not this. It was quite possible for Jews. This proves, this shows, or Jewish people. It's quite possible for them to keep kosher and keep it, and not eat unclean things, and yet associate with non-Jews. That's not the problem here. The problem is that in ancient times, according to rabbinical teaching, a Gentile can be considered unclean. That's not going to work. But they would be considered unclean because they were associated with unclean things in their person. Okay, and Peter finally gives us the conclusion of the lesson.
Dad,
What?
you need to stop holding down the right click button.
I'm trying not to. Only it's in the wrong mode.
Use the mouse to click it out of the mode, then use the pen.
Just use the mouse over here on the wheel.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Are you sure that's the right
Yeah, I
pen?
gotta get used to this interface. Okay, so Peter's conclusion in Acts 10 and 11 was that he should call no man profane, common, or unclean. Common. Okay? Which is to say, the vision was meant to teach him that it was all right to associate with Gentiles and be at the same table with them. Okay, and of course God had to make this point at this time because it was necessary for the good news to go to the nations.
Yeah, he was about to appoint Saul to become the missionary
Right.
to the Gentiles.
Right. Now these nations here, who are they? See, remember our Ezekiel passage over here.
Non-Jewish.
Non-Jews,
nations.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, but of the two houses of Israel, which one is the non-Jewish one?
Israel.
Israel's the non-Jewish one. And where did Israel end up?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Among the nations. So, God tells Israel that they go into exile, and then he tells them they will eat unclean food, and then he's telling Peter here, you've got to give up your hackles about not associating with non-Jews in order to give them the gospel. So what we have here is that, in essence, by sending the gospel to the nations, God is now trying to redeem the house of Israel. Okay?
The northern kingdom.
The northern kingdom. A key passage here would be Genesis 49:16 or 48:16, I can't remember, but where it says that Ephraim would become the fullness of the nations. Of the nations.
You put
Okay. Well, you can just listen to what I'm saying, okay? That's just
Okay,
doable,
I'm just
right?
nitpicking.
Okay. The Ephraim would become the fullness of the nations. Now there may be other tribes scattered around.
What about the Greeks?
Well, the fullness means the completeness, or all of them. So I would imagine that the tribe of Ephraim in particular was the most prolific, would have descendants scattered in every nation. Okay, now in Romans 11, Paul says hardness has happened in part to Israel until what? Until the fullness of the nations comes in. Okay, so the hardness happens to Israel while the gospel is still being preached to the nations. And then after the gospel is done being preached to the nations, then Israel itself will be healed and the end will come.
Dad, a lot of our eyes are watering.
Well, I'm getting near the end. I know that we haven't covered quite so much territory that we covered last time on this.
There wasn't the last time I checked.
Yeah, there was. 2 weeks ago we did chapters 1 through 3. Remember?
yeah.
We've
That was
covered
last
more
time.
material than we did last time.
Yeah, technically.
Well, we covered more material, but we covered less text this time.
Yeah.
I think we only made it to what? How far did we make it?
Verse 15.
15. Okay. I guess that's a good stopping point.
Or 16.
15 verse 15.
Since you guys are expressing weariness.
Okay, so what was the point of the lesson
Well,
again?
there's only 2 more verses in chapter 4, Dan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that.
This isn't anywhere near me running it.
Yeah, you're right. Well, why don't you read them for us, Leroy?
Are they on the screen?
Yeah, 16 there.
You'll have to move
Technically, that's
fast.
your turn to read it. Dick.
Moreover, he said to me, Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, and they shall eat bread by weight and with fearfulness, and they shall drink water by measure and in dismay. Yeah, dismay, it's chlorinated. That they may want bread and water and be dismayed, one with
Another.
At the
Top
top,
right.
just before 5.
with one another, and put away their iniquity.
Pine away.
Or pine away their iniquity. Okay.
So he's announcing judgment to the house of Judah here.
Yeah, or rot away because of your punishment. This is
I'm gonna go put on
ESV.
my dark shades.
Rot away.
Right.
Yeah, so they have to weigh their food and their drink because they don't have enough of it.
That means that means that it's got to be rationed out, and it's just getting little quantities of it.
Uh-huh. So if I can kind of summarize the point of this lesson, I guess a few points that would be good to make would be when God says that he's going to judge the nations, he does it. And it's a very measured and precise response. Okay, he measured how long Israel sinned, right down to the exact number of years, and also he measured how long Judah sinned, right down to the exact number of years.
Find out the exact number of days.
And he set them into exile. Well, he knows that too. So, I guess just a thought for the future is. In Leviticus, he said 4 times, I believe Leviticus 26 or 27, he says he would punish them 7 times for their sin. 7 times. He says that 4 times in a row. Okay. And the 7 times, well, we know that 7 times 70 is 490. And we actually run into that idea in Daniel 9. Okay. And 390 years times 7 equals 2,730. So if we were to multiply that sin and make a 7-fold punishment out of it, we would end up with 2,730 years. Okay. This kind of gets into eschatology a little bit. All right.
What's eschatology? I didn't ask anything.
Ca, tall,
You're missing
low,
letters there.
G.
Dad, that doesn't look right.
Okay, the eschaton is a Greek word. Okay, that means last things, or final things, end things.
Okay.
Ology means study of, so it means the study of end time things or last things.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I guess another point to make is that this illustration about human dung and cow dung and animals in a sheet and nations and Gentiles is God making, he's making his points, and he says what his points are in the text. It really has nothing to do about abolishing God's law. That's a really shallow interpretation to take that away from it, and really misses what the text was saying. So, yep, that's our lesson for today.
Okay. Blank that out.
Okay, just a minute.
Hit the button on the
I'm going to
projector.
hit the pause button
The
over
big
there, too.
red.
Yeah, that's shallow reasoning to just take it
the big red.
literally about animals and ignore the fact that that's a figure of speech.
Actually, we have to do better than that.
Now, wait a minute, Daddy. Don't screw things up.
I'm going to shut it off.
I have to get this fixed before you
You
go
can
back.
fix that how you want, but I'm going to shut the machine off.
It was kind of funny. I went to a Sunday school lesson at Bethel Church one time, and the pastor was teaching it, and it happened to be Acts 10, or the next chapter or two, whenever it was repeated. And then the pastor said, and here was Peter eating all this shrimp and ham and just enjoying it.
Right.
very shallow
That's
interpretation.
me going face palm.
Right. Well,
I almost,
That, now
the
that you
interesting
think
thing
about
was
it,
the
that
voice said,
is
"Peter,
very,
kill and
very
eat."
shallow.
But
It is.
he had a choice about
Brainless.
what to kill and eat because the animal, the
I mean,
sheet
why
had
would
all kinds of animals. In it.
God picked
It doesn't
that.
say they were
If
only
he was gonna
unclean.
say that, why would he pick that?
The trouble is that
Right
he didn't
there,
want to
right
kill
there.
and eat them because they were all
associated.
bumping sides with the unclean animals. You see.
Anyway. Lunch?
Yeah.
Something like it.
Do you want to
The small
elongate?
talk is being
Do you want
recorded,
to
you should know.
elongate that table?
We need
Unrecorded.
we need to
Being
move.
recorded.
We need
Yeah,
to
it's
take
still
this
running.
down.
How long does that happen?
Okay.
all the
So
time.
let's put it in the pantry.
1 hour and 5 minutes.
Joseph has fun with
Ari,
that.
you want to help me take it down?
Actually, he wasn't eating at all, because it says the sheet went back up.
Right. He didn't. He didn't
He
eat
didn't
anything.
eat
at all.
anything.
It
It's
was
it's
a
almost
vision
like God
anyway, it wasn't
relented,
real.
like with Ezekiel.
Well, I'm curious.
He gave him an
gonna
alternative.
things.
His point was made, so he took the
Yeah.
animals away.
Mhm.